Welcome to the Bills and Bones podcast. I'm your host, Pete C. G will not be with us today. Joining us is Jimbo Slice and Raider Nate from Raiders Nation. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
I'm living right now. That's enough for me. It's cold outside, but we're getting through it.
Dealing with the
Jimmy,
cold.
dealing with the cold, huh? Well, good to hear. Well, listen, boys, I do got a quick little promo here. If you're looking for any of your car needs, stop over and see D and M Auto Sales on 3071 Seneca Street. Stop in and see Dave or Dave Jr. for any of your car needs, whether it's new tires, new brakes, any of that stuff. Stop in and see those guys at 3071 Seneca Street, D and M Auto Sales. So I want to jump right into that Chiefs game, Nate. I know that it was a very disappointing ending for you guys. I want you to just talk a little bit about the refs and also the whole experience of the Black Friday debacle out there.
I guess you got to start with the referee in that bad call because the hot topic. Why did they go watching football? If they go outside, they ball. Maybe we all know the Rams are a little different now. Or when Mahomes is playing, and I just don't see how that. The refs don't have a union. How are these guys not getting fired? They're not getting held accountable. New York always covers for them. Always, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, you hear that constant, sorry, Nate. You hear that constant, well, don't leave it in the referee's hands. It seemed like the Raiders were making all strides to move down the field. As they needed was a field goal after that debacle.
And if they don't miss those two field goals.
Different ballgame. That's for sure.
And Carlson doesn't miss field goals. You know what I mean? I've never ever seen him hit the ground going to make a field goal.
Yeah. I don't know what that was either. I mean, obviously, when you have such a big game with a large audience like that, the last thing the league wanted was to have another situation that they got themselves into. But when O'Connell, fumbled that snap and everything kind of went crazy, I was just really disappointed in watching the refs take a long time to figure that out. It seemed to me that there was definitely some fishiness. And when you do that type of stuff, you're just allowing for people to nitpick the situation, and then that's exactly what's going to happen.
I haven't seen a high school ref that didn't make that call.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was extremely disappointing, and obviously we wanted that win as Bills fans.
And to O'Connell's credit, he took complete responsibility for it in his post-game conference. He said, it was my fault. I was clapping my hands. This is only, my second, I had a whole lot of life reps with this guy. So I do like that O'Connell stuck up for it. And they played a great game. They were moving the ball. They didn't. Kansas City did them no favors. They anything and exposed Kansas City for kind of what they are. They're just playing as a mediocre team right now.
Well, I think that they're going to continue to play a lot of close games. You can see that. In the past, those close games have obviously worked out in their favor. And when you play a divisional team like the Raiders, you can expect it to be very, very close, like when we play the Jets or like when we play the Dolphins or the Patriots. So, I mean, I get that, but it was just disappointing.
And then, they see these guys twice a year. They're obviously the biggest. Crosby and Mahomes have, a love-hate relationship. And I think it really is. I think they put a good face on it for the media, but I think that Matt wants to be in his face every single play, and he wants to talk to him every play.
What defensive player doesn't? That's that's the mentality you have to have.
I think it just needs a little more. We're at the division game, and it's the Super Bowl champions, and for the Raiders, that's the Super Bowl. This is a national TV game.
Sure. Kind of like Christmas last year. I mean, it's great that this show, the last two teams that actually beat the Chiefs were the Raiders and the Bills. Sadly, the Raiders beat them last year in December, and we've got that one against them this year. What did you think just about the whole Black Friday, game setup, everything that was going on that day?
I enjoyed it. I mean, I think that we got to talk about, the tournament. They're bringing this up. They're making plays. Brock Bowers stood out. Aiden O'Connell threw for 340 yards. You can't be mad at that. Is he the answer? Is he long term? No. But if he buys into the system, it's make some progress and go from here.
Yeah, and look, I don't think Aiden's going to be the future either, but to have that type of performance against the Kansas City Chiefs is impressive. Everybody's giving the Chiefs their best shot. So I guess, yeah, knowing each other certainly makes it a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but a little bit more used to, I guess. But at the same time, Chiefs win all those close games, and we know that. And like you said, when we got this whole thing started, you can't leave it in the referee's hands, unfortunately. But you can't be making those types of mistakes the refs made either. Jimmy, did you get? Jimmy, I'm sorry, Nate. Jimmy, did you get to watch the game a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I mean, honestly, this is a season, obviously, where there needs to be change, but you see some bright spots. I mean, number 89, Brock Bowers. I mean, instant return on investment. Instant.
He's a stud. I mean, he's playing well, and if you're double teaming him, now you're opening up somebody else.
Yep.
So,
which is going to be happening. I mean, when they played Denver, there was a lot of double teaming of Brock, and they kind of took him out of the equation. But still, like, it's really cool to see a guy like that who G loved him. I mean, he went to Georgia. He pretends like he's a Georgia fan, but I mean, he knew who he was coming out. He was very excited about it, but at the same time, he knew that that wasn't what they really, really needed. That quarterback is going to be the piece that is going to keep the Brock Bowers around. It's going to keep the Max Crosbys around. So, I mean, sooner or later, when that guy does come down the pipe for you guys, that's going to be great because he will have an incredible weapon like Brock Bowers.
I think he only dropped 2 balls this whole season.
When you have a tight end putting in top tier wide receiver numbers, I mean, in this league especially. So, it's good to see, at least in his first year, I mean, a hell of a jump.
Well,
so many times you get it's like, rookie sometimes fall flat. You got to understand that I think they really made this offense tailored to fit with Brock, which is great.
Sure.
And I'm really excited to see that. I'm also interested to see how they progress. I mean, there's going to be a ton of turnover this year. I mean, this is the year where you got to really cut the wheat from the chaff, and hopefully you can keep who you want, pick up who you need, and draft who will stay with you.
Well, this is why I don't buy into that whole tank for draft pick thing, because all these guys are playing for the job. None of these guys are trying to lose any sort of games. So, and that's a popular take. Well, don't win anymore. You can draft this quarterback or that quarterback. High draft quarterbacks don't pan out, man. A lot of them do not. How's Trevor Lawrence doing? How's Ryan Lee? They might have all this physical ability.
Speaking of, just because we're talking about a really first round potential bust and everything like that, I mean, one of the top prospects this year is Sanders. From Colorado. What's going to happen with him? Personally speaking, he's giving me Jamarcus Russell kind of vibes. Not that you guys would know about that in any way, shape, or form. I mean,
But his arm isn't as strong as
and you're not as big.
That's the knock on that. The Sanders kid is that he does some things well, but can he throw in the NFL? I don't think so.
Not to mention the fact that the circus will come with him too. He's already, people are already crowning him, a Heisman guy and all that kind of. I watched the Kansas game 2 weekends ago, and he didn't look anything special to me. And I'm not trying to knock the kid; he could learn and definitely. I mean, but as far as the Raiders go, I mean, let me ask you something, Nate. Do you feel like having the tight end position be like, the focus of your offense? That's not something that most NFL offenses are going to do. How do you feel about that? And what do you think they need to do to make it stronger?
I think they need a true number 1 receiver and a guy with a strong arm. That the tight end is who you go to when, your downfield threat isn't there. So, yeah, you want them 6-8 yards to your tight end. You want him to break for some when he can, but you still need that 20-yard pickup here and there. You still need that threat. They got, it's the same old thing. They have guys with that speed, but not him. So they have to find a combination of those two things. I mean, that young kid in Alabama, I'd rather see him go there than Jonathan Sanders, honestly. That true freshman that they have is just a maniac.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
freshman,
then again, there's a problem. You need to have a strong enough arm to throw to him.
right?
Where do you get that from?
How much of Brock's offensive production is coming with the dump offs, with the being down 2 touchdowns? Because I mean, I know that I've watched him, and he certainly had some success. Obviously, that Chiefs game was great, but there were the Denver games where when they took him out of there. I mean, I feel like a lot of his contributions are during garbage time, and it would be nice to see if he was being productive when it really, really mattered. So,
well, if you look at the Raiders game, pretty much everything past the first half is garbage time. A couple of good, they come out hot, throughout a couple good drives. Before the Turners got there, they had nobody to make adjustments.
Right.
So now the coach is stepping in to make adjustments. I know I beat the last time I was on the podcast. Coaching is huge. It's the most important thing in the league. And you can keep that in mind. You can have the great. These players' athletic ability is all very, very close. The difference is playing within your system and making those adjustments. They figure out what to do, and okay, this guy's going to go to the slot when they're lined up like this. Once they figure that out, once they get that look figured out, now you have to have another look.
Yeah. Do you think Pierce sticks around and gets a draft, or how does this offseason pan out for him there, Nate?
I think they're going to let Pierce go at least until the middle of next season.
Yeah.
Do you
think he jumps on the Sanders train, or do you think he has something else up his sleeve? Because it seems like the owner has already kind of put all of his eggs in one basket.
Oh, the Sanders are leaking on Twitter all the time that that's where they want to go and all that stuff. But I mean, you're going to all that leak and all that stuff. It doesn't matter because whatever John Lassie was going to take.
Yeah.
Where you want to go is irrelevant.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're Eli Manning, remember that garbage he pulled a couple years ago. But you're right. I mean, you're going where you're going to be drafted to, and it seems to me that if Antonio Pierce is going to continue to be a coach in this league, this draft is going to be crucial for his success. And obviously, with the Raiders' state right now, they have a lot of holes to fill. If he could get in there, get the quarterback, get some more production from the wide receiver position, like you said, they could definitely be a little bit more of a thorn in the side of those other teams in the division. But as I watch the Chargers get better, at Denver, and obviously the Chiefs, you guys need to keep up, and that's why obviously this draft is so important.
I think I would draft the right guy. I would draft the guy. Because if he ain't getting pressure, they can find somebody to make those throws.
Yeah. I mean, if you're better up front, you're going to make everybody look better behind you on offense and defense. But I just feel like Raiders Nation would probably. You seem like you got a little bit more looking down the road in your state of mind, whereas I feel they're trying to put out on fires right now.
Yep. Well, everybody wants right now. They think, okay, they're transportation only works online. In the real world, you have to have guys in your system. You have to have guys that can figure out what you're trying to do. And that's stay healthy. And until really learn about Buffalo, it seems like one key injury blows the whole deal. And we can get back to that, when we talk about Buffalo game, but you're not going to be deep at every position. So if like they've lost their guards, their offensive line has had a lot of personnel changes this season, which makes the difference.
Sure.
It's huge.
Sure. I mean, and looking back to what that team was initially all put together to be with your Kyle and Devontae and then obviously bringing in that tight end, I feel like at the beginning, well, obviously Kinger was out this year, but
right.
They certainly didn't do themselves any favors by getting rid of him. I understand why they did and why they got rid of Devontae, but I don't know.
I'm not saying they got rid of Devontae at all.
I know you're not sad, but I guess what I'm saying is they kind of made their own bed and now they got to lay in it type of a thing, right? They knew that the rest of this season was going to be difficult without anybody, and I just don't think it's fair for Pierce. That's I guess what it all comes down to is that at the end of the day,
playing good. You know, and I think people don't understand either. He's a defense guy.
if it wasn't for him,
If
right?
it wasn't for him, they would be
We
getting
talked,
shelled every game.
yeah, and we talked a little bit about this at the beginning. You know, like he's keeping them in games. Their first half approach is always pretty good. You know, like you don't rarely have I seen the Raiders getting blown out at halftime. In fact, they were winning some of the games earlier on in the year. So yeah, I mean, obviously some adjustments need to be made, but you need some stars to make those adjustments too. And when you don't have the horses, and you said it yourself, and you're not deep, you can't be making any mistakes, and that's not something the Raiders have done.
Well, you finally have a little bit of coach turnover too with the offensive coordinator, you know, and it's going to be a work in progress, you know.
But those guys are experienced. I feel like when the Turners do step in, Jimmy, they will definitely continue to do their best to make O'Connell look better for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just in 2 weeks, man.
Yeah, you know, I mean, a lot of people thought that was going to be a slaughter, including Vegas. So obviously, seeing O'Connell go out there and produce, it was fun to watch.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You know, like, I was never a Minshew guy. Like I like him as a guy, but I do think O'Connell's a little better. You know, I think his arm's a little stronger. I think he reads checkdowns better. Yeah. You know, but I mean, realistically, both what they are is number 2 guys. You know, in the real world.
Yeah, they're backups for sure. Yeah. I can agree with that. So you got the bye coming up this week, Nate. What do you think the last 4 games of the season are going to look for you guys?
Tampa Bay's going to be tough, man. I mean, Baker's going to give them a problem. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we'll see. But, you know, I mean, I like seeing him ball out, so that makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know, seeing Baker play good football balls me out, you know, is good. But for me, I'm just looking forward to be competitive. Mm-hmm. I think if they're not getting blown out and they're competitive and they're making some good progress, I think everybody's going to be okay and they're going to look to fill some positions.
Yeah. And play spoiler. I mean, Jimmy, Jimmy, do you know who the Raiders got coming up? I'm pretty sure it's going to be some divisional games. Obviously, if you could keep those close, play spoiler, maybe keep a Denver or a Chargers, you know, from making the playoffs, that would be great for them. I feel like that would be something to just, you know, screw over the division would be
last week, home versus the Chargers, January 5th.
Yeah, and that will basically be their type of Super Bowl. And after what the Raiders did to the Chargers last year, it'll be really interesting to see how that game goes. Go ahead, Jim.
Every week's got to be a test. Every week you're going to have to really look down and say, okay, who do we want to keep for next year? Who do we want to keep for the future? Who do we want to give out? Because this is the time when you got to get guys for cheap. When you can build up and say, okay, this is, you know, our future. This is someone we can keep as we keep rebuilding at an affordable rate.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when you get that person, you can land them that big contract and everything else, and you know, go through the good times.
I think it's important that no veteran's going to want to
right.
You know, if they don't do any building blocks, if they, you know, money is nice, but you know, if you're looking at a 3rd or 4th year guy, he's already got some money, so now he wants to win.
True. I mean, and it sucks for you guys this year too. I mean, man, to have a bye this late in the season, if you were still in the hunt, I mean, it was. I can't tell you how important it was for the Bills to have the bye the week that they did to allow some of the bumps and bruises to continue to heal up. And they didn't even play Kincaid. We'll get into it in a minute. We didn't even play Kincaid and Coleman this week, and they were still able to have success. So you're right, Jimmy, and you're right, Nate. You have to build that depth. You have to have other guys be able to step up. And when you don't, you're in this position that the Raiders are in right now. So, so let's talk a little bit about the 5-time AFC East champs. Jimbo, give me your where did you watch the game? I know that you used to go, but not going too many this year. Talk to me a little bit about the experience of Sunday Night Football.
So Sunday night, we just kept it really chill because we didn't know what the weather was going to be like. It was just me and the girlfriend, now fiance, actually. And Thank you. Just at the house and just relaxing, and got to watch good winter Buffalo football at its finest on Sunday night.
What'd you think, Nate?
What a great game to watch that was. I mean, they're running 6 offensive linemen for what, 40% of the plays.
All season, baby. It's awesome.
In the snow, James Cook, who I sit on in the first podcast, going back and make one stupid and bottle out. Just running straight down and running over people. Doing what he had to do.
Running by him too. I mean, that run on that sideline play, once he bounced to that outside, I mean, no one was catching him, especially in that snow. But you're right, though, Nate. He definitely absorbs that contact and gets another yard or two after the play.
I think it's important to mention that he was just beautifully coached.
Yes.
Those plays were called specifically. He immediately made the adjustments for the weather. And I think this is what we're going to do. Of course, Josh is being Josh and creating miracles. He caught his own touchdown pass somehow, and
when I was watching that game, I know you're a wrestling fan. Remember the old Mr. Perfect video where he throws the ball and he goes and catches it? That reminded me so much of that game. Like, Josh just completely took it over. And obviously, the nail in the coffin run when he's going by Fred Turner, of all guys, one of the best linebackers in the league. It's amazing for us to watch it in real time and appreciate it, but I don't think we will ever really understand what's going on right now until it's over. And
you never know what you got until it's gone.
I'm enjoying this ride all the way to the end, man.
And even if you don't win the Super Bowl, it's not the end of the world, man. You look how much fun you're getting to have. People miss out. Like, you're supposed to have fun. If you get knocked out in the second or third round of playoffs, you got 3 more weeks of fun.
And that's what it's all about, Nate. You're right. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, a lot of people around here, the expectations were not very high. When you lose all the captains that we lost, all of the starters that we lost, we lose Diggs, we lose Gabe, we lose Mitch Morris. You know how important a center can be for your offense.
I think that was a bigger loss than Diggs for me.
Micah and Poyer and your kick returner and, countless guys, yet the word you used early on talking about the Raiders that they need, that the Bills have, is depth. And having guys, Milano has been finally came out and played last week. But you know what? Dorian Williams has been fantastic. And obviously in a snow game like that, where you're going to be running the ball, I would have probably let Milano sit and continue to let Dorian go. I mean, McCaffrey was tearing us up until he
got hurt.
But that's something that is going to be annoying down the road.
You the council accountable for that, for how they're calling the plays? Like, they're wanting him to cut and
I think that they're trying to get him to bounce, absolutely, but
you can't bounce in that weather. I mean, realistically, in snow like that, in conditions like that, you're playing at 75% speed. I can remember playing
sometimes. Yeah, you were seeing guys
if you're like
slow motion.
You have to call that game differently.
Yeah.
And you got to tackle on defense. And I'm sorry, Jimmy, but you got it when you're designing it to plug it up so that the guy goes outside. That means Teron Johnson has to tackle. That means your corners got Douglas and Benford got to be out there making plays. And Hannah came up and laid the win a couple times in that game. If he could continue to do that and obviously make some plays, when teams are trying to air it out, we're going to have success. What do I think about it? Honestly, I hate watching the run game kind of take us apart. But in my experience, especially this year, teams come out and try to run the ball on us, but as soon as we score, they can't do that shit anymore. Right. So that's the key, is that when you get the ball, you score, and you put them in a position where they got to catch up to you. Teams that I don't have to tell you guys this, teams that are running the ball are usually the teams that are in the league, and that's exactly what we were doing all night.
Mm-hmm. No. Going back to the McCaffrey situation, I personally think that, athletes are like horses. They are just going to run. They're going to run, and they are going to go to the farthest.
You're right. Yeah, he probably went out there banged up.
And,
Right.
you know, I mean, that's his livelihood. That's his bread and butter. That is his career, his job. You know, he's going to say, I have to do whatever I can, not only for myself, for my team, for the fans, everything. It's a coach's job to sort of be the one to hold the reins and say, whoa,
Yep.
we still need you for the rest of the season,
And protect the
long
players.
long term. Yeah. And
And you
I
know,
hate to say it, look at the 49ers situation. You know, I mean, they're last in the division now. You know, what are their odds? I mean, I'm sure the division that they're in, I mean, isn't as competitive, is, you know, competitive on some ways, but still, you know, you just lost. And don't get me wrong, Mason was it's been a great plug-in for them still too, but you just lost, you know, CMC. Everyone knows those
Yep.
initials right there.
Sure.
That's in the NFL, and he's gone now for the rest of
Yep.
the season. And I keep saying it every time someone gets injured. What's the long-term ramification? He's already got a history bug, and this is just another
he's got to throw us in the
right on
Achilles.
there.
And he's under 30. I mean, that right there is a huge red flag for me. I mean, listen, dude, the dude was awesome. He was an awesome college player. The problem is Carolina fed him and fed him and fed him
Yep.
and
Oh,
fed
yeah.
him. And when he got to the 49ers and he became, I mean, he's still the first option, but there are much better options there.
Mhm.
You know, over the beginning of his transition over to that team, he was still banged up and missing games and,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, sitting out and things like that. But
Yeah.
look, man, that team was 5-6 coming into our game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And only one game out of first place. I get what you're saying, Jimmy. You know, that division isn't, you know, nothing to get excited about, but they're all very close. And you knew he was going to be in that game because that was their, I don't want to say that was their season, but if they did win that game, it
Make
would
it
have
easier.
propelled them to a position where they can still fight to try to get the West, right? So I don't know. At the beginning of the year, everybody thought San Fran was going to be good and was going to take that division down. But I mean, the NFC has turned out to be a little bit different than what people thought it was going to be.
Major projections, right?
So, you know, right now, I think when we're talking NFC, you can't even put San Fran up there because they're not in the playoffs. But the major two big dogs right now, after watching this weekend, is Philly and obviously, you know,
Philly Detroit, man.
Detroit. And when that showdown goes down in January, which I think it will, unless, you know, the Packers sneak in there, do something crazy. But I think that showdown will obviously be something that all NFL fans will be very, very excited about.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of getting back a little bit to the game, you know, it's good to see Josh using everybody on the field. That's the thing that, you know, people were really concerned about because last year the focus was so much on Diggs that defenses knew it was coming and they would shift to that side of the field or they would move with him when he went into motion. But now, you know, earlier in the year, G and I talked a little bit about this. If what has ended up happening did, and it did, it would be because he was using Matt Collins, he was using Dawson Knox, he was using guys that, you know, were not expected to come in here and contribute right away. But now that they are, I think the league needs to really take notice because each and every game now when we get our tight end and our rookie receiver back, there are going to be guys that you are going to need to shut down and someone else is going to eat because of it. What do you guys think about that?
I think that Josh has these guys bought in. I think that Josh's magic is that he puts himself out there every game. And that I really believe that what sets him apart is just how he plays football. So these guys aren't going to give any less effort than he does. If he's willing to go out there and take a whack, if he's willing, you know, the receiver can't chase it to him. They can't be ducking hits over the middle and all that shit because they know Josh is going to take that same hit.
Yeah.
You know, he's not asking these guys to do nothing he won't do.
Last year, you're so right, Nate. And last year, there was a time when Josh went into the end zone and broke up a fight between two offensive linemen. Like, and then another offensive lineman, like, kind of had his hands up in the air and grabbed him by the horse collar. It was like, what are you doing, dude? You're a quarterback. You don't go get in between two offensive linemen going at it.
Let me get 600 pounds of. I'm gonna get some Gatorade, dude. Get a little, you know.
I think that the fact that he likes to mix it up and talk a little trash is a perfect combination for people here in Buffalo, especially now with watching them. you know, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Josh isn't good in the snow. He's not good."
He's pretty good this snow this week.
He's not going to throw for 400 yards, Nate, but he is going to be able to pick up first downs that other guys can't.
Yep.
He's going to be able to make plays on 4th and 2. That touchdown was a 4th down against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. You know, like those types of plays don't just happen with Aiden O'Connell or, even Mahomes.
Even if, when got that, that handoff from Cooper.
Yeah.
To get that touchdown. He's got no business being up there. He's up there trying to block, trying to follow the play, trying to help everybody out. And another quarterback in the league going, hey, I did what I'm supposed to do. I hand the ball off. Let's see what he does.
When he went to the sideline, they were asking, did you mean to do that? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. 3 letters. MVP.
I think so.
I like something really crazy.
Come on. Let's face it. People can talk about stats. They can talk about the numbers. Watch the reels.
I think so.
Yep.
Goff and Josh would probably be people are going to throw Barkley into that mix right now because of their rise. And I think they're very dangerous. I think Philly will be very dangerous with their experience. Their coach is an idiot who makes a lot of stupid calls and stupid mistakes. But the talent they have is unmatched right now.
You got to look at it. MVP really means what it means, and it's the most valuable player. I don't think there's a player in the league that is more valuable to their team than Josh Allen.
Especially this year. This year, for sure. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head there, Nate. And moving forward, look, I'm not going to say that everybody knows all the names of the players on Detroit, but Detroit's loaded. They got a really nice offense, and they got guys that are getting it done. Goff is excellent. The transition that he's made from LA to there after all of that craziness. Who would have thought that, Stafford goes out and wins a Super Bowl in Los Angeles, yet Goff ends up putting in the better body of work and probably will retire there or at least be there for the time being with the run that they're going to go on.
It's the greatest debate, who would you take? Who won that trade? And it's still up for debate on things.
Bullshit. Until Detroit wins the Super Bowl, there's nothing up for debate. But, I mean, I get what you're saying.
I'm not upset if Detroit wins the Super Bowl. I like the example. I did not love that dude. A dude that's that passionate, that excited about the game.
I want to win. So if it ain't us, I would love it for it to be somebody else, but it doesn't need to be somebody who hasn't won it yet because I don't want to be on that list anymore. But I get what you're saying. They're easy to cheer for, right, Nate? Is that what wrong with it? Yeah, I mean their coach reminds you of like your high school offensive or defensive coordinator, like, you know what I mean? Just that hard ass. Yeah. And there's that gets people interested. That old school mentality is what a lot of people are looking for in football these days.
100% the coach that ran suicide with you. Just like when you were hitting it.
He had the key to the weight room on his keychain. He was probably in there late nights. Yeah, you're right. I 100% can see that. Go ahead, Nate. I'm sorry.
But not the asshole version of that guy either. He's the version of that guy that would say, hey, man, you seem a little off or having problems at home or whatever. So I think that's what draws people into him and getting talking a little bit about them and making them kind of a sentimental choice.
Yeah. So I would say right now, Josh, Goff, Barkley. But if you put fucking
running back. Oh
yeah.
They're the same team.
Yeah.
You put another wild good quarterback in Detroit. They're the same team. They still win games. You take Josh out of Buffalo and replace him with another quarterback, I don't think they win.
No, and you're completely right on that. I agree. The most value. And here's another thing that we kind of touched on with the Raiders, too. How many times was Josh sitting in the fourth quarter this year, Jimmy? Probably 4 or 5 games, right? He sat almost the entire he definitely sat the entire fourth quarter against the 49ers. So, like when you start using stats as the barometer, like you're setting yourself up for disaster. Because look at Brawl. Look at Lamar. Both teams that aren't even winning their division, you shouldn't have a guy that's going to be the MVP if your team doesn't even win the division.
And then how many touchdowns and big throws are you getting when you're playing a prevent defense and
when you're down 2 touchdowns, right?
yeah.
Someone
Someone gonna let you throw for 30 yards, 60 yards in that situation. They don't give a shit.
last week when Lamar played Philly, he had about 150 yards passing until the last drive, and
Yeah.
people are throwing that in my face, like, "Well, look what he's doing." I'm like, "Dude, that last drive didn't mean shit. They had subs on the field and they were playing dime. Like, congratulations that you can find an open tight end in the middle of the
Garbage.
field.
It's garbage.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Those people don't know anything about football.
Josh literally has no garbage stats this year. I think they took him out of the game when we lost when the Ravens game was over. He was done, and then obviously that Houston game was neck and neck. So like, I get it. I agree with you, Nate. I think that he is the obvious choice right now because of how important he is to his team for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So next week, the Bills got to go to Los Angeles, SoFi again. We've had some success there already in the short time that it's been open with wins over the
I hate
Rams.
the goddamn Rams. I hate the Rams. I hate the quarterback. I hate everything about them. I hope Buffalo goes in there and runs them up for 40.
Well, and we have, and
Yep.
you know, it's funny. The Rams are on quite a bit of prime time, obviously, because of where they are
It's a huge market
in that
So,
stadium. So I've been able to watch them a little bit, and I'm sorry, but that should be a business trip, and that should be a very easy win for them. Maybe not even using some of the guys that are still back.
Team seems to travel pretty well. You know, they don't. You know, they prepare.
Well, think of the last 5 years, all the primetime games that they've played, whether it was in.
I mean, they're used to having a janky schedule, playing at 1, playing at 4, playing at 8.
Yeah,
but wherever, playing in big markets. I don't think this trip rattles Buffalo very much.
I think they're going out there today too, so they're going to spend some time out there for a couple of days, get acclimated to the weather, to the time change. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this team should not present a problem to the Bills, but like Jimmy said, that division is very, very neck and neck. So every game matters for them, and with Arizona breathing down their neck and the Rams, fighting, and obviously the Seahawks too, this game is going to be very important to them. For us, again, it's just more kind of navigating towards that number 1 seed. What do you think the chances, Jimmy, of the Bills securing that number 1 seed with 5 games to go?
I'd love for there to be a couple Chief spoilers because they have just one game by, skin level. I mean,
well, they're going to play some of their tough adversaries in the division still. Obviously, the Raiders are done, but yeah, you're right. So, do you think that the number 1 seed is 14-3, 15-2? Like, where do you think it ends up, Jimmy?
I mean, I think it'll be. I think for the Bills to get it, I think they need to clear. I think they need to clear all the rest of them. I think we can't have any more losses, and that's going to kill us. So
the Chiefs lose 1.
The Chiefs have to lose 1, and we win the tiebreak.
Well, I get that, but I mean, running the table. I mean, they're on game. I think they won 6, maybe 6 or 7 in a row that they've won. Right, 6. So
right,
I mean, stay rolling like that going into Detroit. Like the Bills haven't lost since that Texans game back in the beginning of October when I tore the Achilles, and Detroit hasn't lost since the opener. So, I mean, we're talking about a showdown that could possibly be something that we could look forward to down in New Orleans in February too, boys. That would be great. Yep. So we'll see how that goes. Kind of want to switch gears here, fellas, and talk a bit about the craziness that happened in the Texans Jacksonville game. Did you see the hit that Lawrence took and all of the aftermath that has gone on since, gentlemen?
Well, here's a proven dirty player who's been fined a bunch. There's all kinds of things that I think it was for sure being hit. I think it's for sure dangerous. I think PPE is real. Now people are starting to talk about he laid the slide so we can get more yards. Is that a real thing? Is that something we should be talking about?
I think that they will. I think that they're going to change the rule on quarterback sliding once you give yourself up. it was such a bang bang play when you watch it on television, but when they actually slowed it down, Nate, it seemed like there was about 6 yards in between the defender and the quarterback when he started to slide. I feel as a player, go ahead.
He ran it up in his pocket. He wanted to do that.
That's what
He
I
wanted to do that.
and when you listen to his coach, D'Amico, who I mean, he's a patriot. That's all I got to say about that. So to listen to him talk and try to make excuses for what happened in that situation was disgusting. He's got to remember this game is not the game that he played, 15 years ago. It's completely changed. The investments in these quarterbacks is at an astronomical. Go ahead.
This is a real thing, man. How many more junior sales do we need? How many more Chris Benoit's do we need?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we need these guys to hurt themselves and scramble their brains so we can get entertained for 4 hours on Sunday? I don't need that. And I think there's, when you see people crying, oh, like Dave's gotten soft, and no, he hasn't gotten soft. It's because he learned something different. These guys are bigger than they ever were, faster than they ever were.
Absolutely. That's involved.
There's a big difference between a 225-pound guy hitting you and a 300-pound guy hitting you. There's a big difference between a guy who ran 5 seconds 40 hitting you and a guy who runs a 40 hitting you. So they have to make these adjustments. And they got this is a super unpopular take, but it's one I believe in. They should, if they take some padding away from these guys on their bodies, they're not going to do it because their bodies aren't going to be able to stand it. The pads are weaponized, man. You can hit somebody way harder with all that.
Well, especially the helmet. I mean, if you're a defender and you're in a position to lower the boom, I mean, Nate, you and I played in the day and age when you were looking for stick marks on your helmet and on your face mask and things like that. But what we didn't know then, we know now. So you are going to see players, wearing the crown and like Rap, he's wears the crown. You couldn't do it, huh, Kelso? Well, look, I mean, obviously, guys are using those types of devices to prevent.
It's not smarter than
I get what you're saying. Like, I'm old school too. I still carry my golf bag. I don't use a cart. Like, I don't use the laser beam or any of that stuff most of the time. I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, the science, it is real. I mean, and people can deny the CT stuff and all that you want, but there are so many examples of the damage that it's done. And Jimmy, you talk a little, or you had mentioned Junior Seau in a previous podcast. He actually donated his brain and his body to science so that they could look at the effects of it. He shot himself in the chest so that he wouldn't fuck up his brain, and they could use that for research down the road. The NFL will continue to do their best to pretend like it's not, a serious situation, but we all know that it is.
Sure. It's huge. Important. It's important. And there, like I said, I think that, if you're within 10, 6, 8 yards, you need to pull up. As long as the guy gives himself up.
Or don't lead with the crown. Don't lead with the crown of your helmet. Like that. That's audit. They gave him 3 game suspension, which is historic for the NFL. Usually guys who go down for 3 games, it'll be for performance enhancing drugs or some shit like that. Like, to hear this situation is
just on the field incident. Yeah,
and then and again, the coach making excuses for him, there's just no place in that. That's horseshit. I'm all for sticking up for your players, but that's different. Go ahead, Nick.
Right, wrong is wrong, no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like you said, he's a patriot. Those guys don't have much integrity.
Well, and they wrote, he may be the only Patriot coach in a long time that's had any success. I mean, don't get me wrong, Vrabel, obviously. I mean, I can go down the list. Yeah, and he also had a King Henry to ride his hitches. But look, I don't want to get into New England shit because they are completely out of the picture. But the mentality that, everybody else is wrong and I'm right as a coach, that shit doesn't fly with me whatsoever. So, to see that he got the 3 game suspension, I love it. Obviously, the Texans are a team that had our number earlier in the season, but with the injuries that they have and everything they got going on, I would love if CJ Stroud and the boys had to come into Buffalo for the playoffs. and we could really stick it to them and kick their ass.
It cost them a bunch of money too. I mean, it should have cost them 3 games and 3 game tests.
Well, I mean, if they're sitting him down for 3 games, they got to be taking his money away from him, Nate. I mean, that would make sense.
I would think.
Right?
I don't know. I mean, it could be contract specific. You know, you never know.
Sure,
you know, there's
sure.
all kinds of magic in there that they do. And you put them on the back end with bonuses too.
Yeah,
Because look how stats he's going to lose in them 3 games.
I know when Vaughn got taken out for the performance or for the domestic violence stuff, he was disappointed and pissed because he's going on, you know, like all of the incentives of his contract. So I don't know what the safety had on his, but I'm sure that there'll be something that will.
That's an easy fix for Von Miller. Don't hit your old lady anymore.
All right, I open that door and let you walk right through it.
All the way open.
So talking about, you know, laying hands on people, do you guys see the Ohio State Michigan debacle at the end there?
Woo! Pepper spraying kids getting wild, man.
Hashtag don't tase me, bro. I was waiting for one.
Thank God that no one like shot the old gun up in the air to get everybody to chill out, right? So
yeah.
As I'm watching that, and you know, I'm thinking to myself, in the day and age of Twitter and all of like, you know, right there, give it to me now. All of the different angles of watching that, it seems to me that Ohio State's just a bunch of babies. And don't get me wrong, obviously Michigan wanted to do their best to stick it to them, but take your L, man. Maybe, I mean, planting the flag in the field, the shit has been going on for years. And I don't know, Michigan taking a victory lap for last year's national championship right there in Ohio State and planting the flag. Yeah, that's a huge slap in the face, but I mean, it's great entertainment. Jimmy, what did you think when you saw all that?
Well, my first thought was, holy shit, because I wasn't really expecting it to be that, I guess the word would be devolve that quickly. And it just felt like, okay, well, things are getting, you know, I expected, I mean, let's face it. I mean, I was that heated.
They hate each other.
That.
They hate each other.
There's no love lost between either of those teams, fan bases, anyone. But then just to sort of see the reaction of like, I mean, it's that escalated quickly. That's the definition of that escalated quickly.
What do you got, Nate?
You know, and I like a little bit of content, a little bit, you know.
Sure,
like a little
Raiders.
At least act like the been before. I mean, I was rather just walked off the field and like, see, fuck you, I told you.
Or everybody just walked with a flag. Yeah, I mean, planting the flag, you're asking for it. I get it.
Oh, they knew what they were doing. They wanted to get the flag. Well, and you know, when you're a 22-year-old kid who's on TV, I mean, some kids want to get on TV.
Sure.
So how do you do it? Oh, I can do this thing and make a spectacle. And happen to get 200,000 views on Twitter or whatever. I think some of that's the culture now.
Which again leads to coaching. You got to bring guys in. I don't care if you're NFL, NCAA, high school, middle school.
You wouldn't see that happen in Alabama.
Well, maybe 10 years ago when Saban was there, but now who knows what would happen. But you're right. Like, also, not many teams are planting their flag in Alabama, though, either.
Look, and people don't understand how different it is, especially in the deep south. You know, you maybe do that in Ohio, Michigan. You ain't doing that in Texas.
No.
You're not doing that in Alabama. You're not doing that in Florida. I mean, that's 100,000 people and their base. Like, I just think in the South it's a whole different animal. That's not happening down.
When I was watching one of the angles, they actually had a guy behind the coach from Ohio State, and he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't yelling. I think when you get a staff to work a program like that, you have to completely buy in. And when people are disrespecting you, like that was going on there, I honestly believe he was probably like telling his players without telling them, go out there and handle your business. And when all the melee was done, when all the dust had settled and the cops had sprayed both teams in the face, nobody got suspended, nobody got in trouble, and each university had to pay $100,000. So if you're telling me that the networks didn't love every single second of that, you are out of your mind.
$100,000, man. That's a penny.
That's 100,000 seat stadium. $7 paying dollars a seat.
Yeah, and like I'm anticipating that matchup next year, right? Because you know
Oh,
it's going to be in the
Oh,
big
yeah.
house. Michigan will be a year better after that,
Yeah.
kind of disappointing season this year. And Ohio State was supposed to be the shit. They were number 2. That was supposed to be a walk in the park. And if anything, they should be more pissed off at themselves than they are
Absolutely.
with the Wolverines. I mean,
Oh,
that
no,
was kind of a
please.
joke. So
Don't fight. Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, cameras.
Oh, yeah. They were. The NCAA is not all the money that they're generating. They don't care.
Plus, they're going to play in every other sport 100 more times this year.
Yep.
That basketball game, when they go to Ohio State, will probably be a little bit crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And who knows? If they could even end up meeting down the road, they're going to play at least twice more. They could probably play in that Big Ten tournament for basketball. So
Yep.
it's a great rivalry. They just threw some more gas in that fire, and it was entertaining. It was definitely entertaining. So, well, gentlemen, it's been a blast. It's a little crazy without the G-Man here, but I feel like Jimbo Slice and Nate the Raider did an awesome job. Thank you so much for filling in for me.
Thank you for having
you guys get some of your Christmas shopping done yet, or you still got to get out there?
No, I just get some money. I don't do none of it.
How about you, Jimbo? I know that you already had to drop a pretty dime here this month.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Everything going to be centered around that what the hell do you call it? Engagement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, like I said,
Well, get her some earrings to match that ring. That would be nice. And it looks like Nate Dog's got a pair on right now that you might want to be able to buy. All right,
we'll talk after this. Have a good
Thanks
one.
for joining us. Check us out on all your other sites. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Pandora. Next week, G will be back with us. We'll talk a little bit about what happened out in Los Angeles and what the Raiders need to do coming out of the bye week. So, gentlemen, happy holidays, and hope I run into you soon, okay?
Happy holidays. Go Bills.
Next time.
Go Bills, baby.